Now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker. I'd like to thank Sandra Long for joining us today. Sandra is a LinkedIn expert, consultant, author, and speaker. Her best-selling book is LinkedIn for Personal Branding, The Ultimate Guide. Sandra presented the first ever TEDx talk about LinkedIn in 2019. Her 11-minute speech is called LinkedIn Community, a Superpower Hiding in Plain Sight, and is available on YouTube. Sandra and her company, Post Road Consulting, focus 100% on LinkedIn education and thought leadership. And Sandra, with that, I'm going to hand things over to you.
Thank you so much, Margaret. And hello, folks. I'm so happy to be here. And thank you for that bio. One other thing I want to add to that is that I've had the pleasure of working with Rutgers for a couple of years on various programs. So I'm super happy to be here. I know many of you, but many of you are from Rutgers or you're alumni, and just really happy to be here with you today. Now, virtual networking has become really important this year, more important than we would have ever imagined. And when I think about virtual networking, it's not just about LinkedIn. And many of you, if you know me, know that that's really where I focus 100% of my brain typically. But I want us to think more broadly about how we can leverage all of our digital opportunities now, because we really need to be thinking about that, particularly in this situation where it seems that most of us are working from home or partially working from home, or definitely reduced amount of time that we're seeing clients or seeing hiring managers. So we really need to be bringing up our A game. Now, before we think about networking, I want you to think about the digital journeys that your prospect is taking. So you might be a job seeker, you might be a salesperson, you might be a business owner, you might be a author or a speaker. But when you think about who are you trying to attract and get to know, I want you to think about that person and the journey that they're taking. Because our prospects and clients today are all online doing a lot of activities before we even get the opportunity to have a conversation. So one example is the hiring manager journey. So if you think about it, the hiring manager would give their they'd write their job application, provide it to HR, it goes in, and then the HR folks are going to receive the resumes and they're going to come to the hiring manager. And what does that hiring manager typically do? Well, today's savvy manager is going to probably go look at the LinkedIn profile, right? And they're also going to ask their network, who do you know that would be great for this role? And their network is then going to look at LinkedIn profiles. They're going to ask their friends for recommendations. Like, the whole thing has changed so that hiring manager's journey is very much network-based and digitally based. And guess what? It's the same for buyers. If you have a company and you're trying to attract people, the same thing is happening for buyers. They are on a digital journey before they will accept a sales call. So today, when we think about virtual networking, I've put it into three main buckets. One is appearance. How you look online makes a difference in terms of how successful you'll be for virtual networking. The second is engagement. Looking good isn't enough. You want to be engaged, and then searching and kind of going beyond who you know. And at the very end, I'll tell you a little bit more about my book, and I'll give you an opportunity to stay in touch with me because I'm releasing my new book very soon, and we'll have a lot of time for Q&A. So that is the plan. So I'm going to ask a question because this isn't just about me. This is about all of you here. I'd like to have Margaret pull up a poll, and we want to know, how experienced do you feel you are at virtual networking? And there's no right or wrong answer. Just let us know, do you feel that you're excellent at this, you're good, you're fair, you're maybe a beginner? How do you feel about how you are doing with virtual networking?
So I would tell you that our responses are showing a slight lead on good.
Don't tell us yet. Don't tell it. You can see it, but we can't see it, right?
That's right. We will just give it another second because there are still people I can tell responding, and then I will close it and show the results. And Sandra, if you don't see the results when I close it, just let me know
Okay.
or when I show them.
Okay. I don't see them. Oh,
Okay,
okay.
then
Oh,
I will
now I
share.
do. Now
Okay,
I see.
perfect.
Does everybody see this?
Everyone else should. Sometimes our presenters don't for some reason, but if you
Okay.
see it, they do.
So across the board, it looks like a lot of you feel that's probably it's probably about normal. I mean, we're all getting better at this. That's no matter where you started in, say, March. We're all improving. So that's the good news. Well, thanks. That kind of gives me a perspective. Appreciate that. So Margaret, you can hide that. Okay. All righty. So the thing about networking is, we're going to be diving into the digital opportunities, but I want you to think about who all these people are, because usually your base network should be people that you have had relationships with. And oftentimes you have an in-person relationship, but you've forgotten to actually be connected with them on LinkedIn, Facebook friends, doing Zoom activities, following them on Twitter, whatever it might be. So I want you to think about who really do you know. Coworkers, past and present, are really usually a great gold mine, because the people that you worked with before are people that can refer you today because they know you, they liked you, they remembered you. Uh, Clients and prospects. Now, this may surprise you, but most of the sales, I work with a lot of sales teams helping them with LinkedIn, and it's always surprised me how many had not connected with their clients and prospects. So this is a huge area of opportunity. Of course, university connections. So if you went to Rutgers, you've got a lot of people you can connect with, no matter what college you went to. And then, of course, industry contacts and your personal relationships. All of those are sort of the bedrock to uh, the folks that you should be looking for connecting. And those people can help you get connected outside of your immediate network. So we're going to start with the first part, which is appearance. And I hate to say that matters, but the fact of the matter, it does. So how you look on social media, and even things like how your email signature and how you come up on virtual events, all that makes a difference, because you want people to follow up with you. You want to get messages and connections and friends. So how you look makes a difference. So we'll start off with Zoom only because I think we're all doing a lot of Zoom, and there's a lot you can do to improve your appearance. Now, what you wear can make a difference, the lighting. And if you look at these examples, you can see some of these folks you can see very easily. Um, uh, Daniel, I think, who's on the lower left, you can't really see him because the light is behind him. And some of these folks, you can, it's sort of looking up from below. If your computer is really low, it's sort of looking up at your nose. So you want to have your laptop sort of at a level set. So there's all these different things you can do to kind of improve your appearance. And so this is my funny picture of me this summer. So there's my Zoom attire. I've got I had a day where I did a lot of corporate Zoom presentations. So I've got my jacket and my necklace. And then, of course, down below is the reality of me wanting to jump out and take a walk. So that's probably, I would guess, a lot of you are in that same boat. So there's also a feature that's kind of fun that on Zoom that you can touch up your appearance and on the video. So that means it will somehow magically make us all look a little better. So you can go into your settings, and it says it's called Touch Up My Appearance. And you can see down below, there's a little, you click on that, and you can actually move that cursor to how much you want to get from a touch-up perspective. So why not have Zoom help us out a little bit? Some of you might want to do a virtual background. It really depends. I think if you've got a great background that you enjoy, then that you think people would resonate with, like even a living room or an office can look just great. So if you have a great background, you can use it. But if you don't, then you can certainly get a virtual background, and typically you'd want to get a green screen. All right. So now we're into the social media part, and the thing that's amazing And again, this sort of, in a way, it irritates me that the photo is so important, but the fact is it is. And this is just the stats for LinkedIn. So if you have a LinkedIn profile with a headshot, you're much more likely to be viewed. You're more likely to get messages and connection requests. That is the fact. So you should want to try to have a great headshot. Try to, even if you can get a professional headshot, you'll feel really confident. I take my headshot, I also put it in Zoom. So if I'm stepping away from, because I normally have my camera on, but if I don't, I can have my headshot showing. So that power of a photo is across the board. Now on LinkedIn, there's all kinds of things you can do to have yourself be found, to be visible, to impress people. And it's really, we're not going to have time to dive into what I normally dive into, which is all about the LinkedIn profile. But you want to make sure you've got that headshot, you've got a banner that is good for your brand, you've got a great headline, and then all the sections are filled out. There's a lot to learn about this. So I hope that that's an area that you're working on. And for most of us, we're working on this all the time because things are changing. I know when COVID happened, I had a lot of changing to do in my profile because I wanted my profile to resonate with today's prospect. So I want you to think about that for your own profile. And all of this work that you do, you may decide that it makes sense for you also to spruce up your image on Instagram, YouTube, Amazon if you're an author, and Twitter, because that prospect, whether it's a hiring manager or a buyer, they could end up looking at you across the board. No, I think for most of us, we spend most of our time on LinkedIn and Facebook and Zoom, but depending on who you are, there could be opportunities across the board. So not only does how you look make a difference just in terms of as you're engaging, but I really believe it makes a difference when you get referred, because one of the things I always try to help my clients and my sales teams that I work with and hiring managers is you want people to mention your name. You want them to refer you. And what happens is someone refers you because you did great work and they're looking you up online. So it all kind of ties together. On LinkedIn, for example, there's over 50 million profile views every single day. And that was before COVID. I don't know the number now, but so people are looking at the profile. So you want to be seen and you want to impress. All right, I'm going to ask a quick question. We're going to move into engagement. There's a lot of tips on engagement, but before that, I'm going to ask for you to put in the chat, what do you do to look good online, or what are you working on now? So this would be something, and Margaret will look at the chat. Are you working on your LinkedIn profile? Are you trying to work on your Zoom presence? Are you adding yourself to Instagram? What are you doing to look good online? And we'd love to just hear some of these answers on the chat, and then we'll move into engagement.
So while I'm giving a moment for everyone to type in, I can tell you, and I did share this with the audience in chat, that I've used that spruce up your appearance on Zoom, and it's amazing. And I have one other hint, and I have to say, Tom Ford gave this advice to Oprah, and Oprah gave it to the world, and I am embracing it. I put a white piece of paper onto my keyboard, and it gives a great reflection of the light and a shape to your face and neck. So but we are getting some audience feedback now too that I can share with you.
Yeah, please, let's hear.
All right, so we have someone who says they are posting more articles and more content on LinkedIn.
Good.
Someone who's trying to get a better understanding of the technology such as Zoom. We have someone else who says they're doing different versions of this in the next couple of comments about LinkedIn profile makeovers. And we have someone, actually, this is very interesting, who iterates every day and calls it turbo A/B testing.
Good.
Yeah,
Those
so
are
we've got some
great. Those are
great
great.
feedback.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I just love to hear what everybody's, because, really most of us are working on this at some point, all the time. So it's really fascinating. So we're going to switch gears. Now we're looking good, whatever that looks like for us, and we're ready to engage, which is really where the magic starts to happen. And there's so many things that we can do. I mean, we can attend things, we can message, invite, we can friend, we can follow, we can speak, we can follow up, we can join. And these are all verbs of things we can do to engage. And there's many, many more. We can introduce people, we can recommend, we can endorse. There's so many things we can do. We can share content. So when it comes to online events, this is something that's definitely been kind of exciting in the last, well, it's really skyrocketed since March. I know many of you probably had conferences or events that then got switched to be virtual. So we're seeing Facebook Lives, YouTube Lives, LinkedIn Lives. We're seeing summits of all kinds, virtual summits. We're seeing Zoom happy hours and conferences that have turned into opportunities. And for us, all of us, we can participate, and there's opportunities for us to network if we participate in these events. You may even want to speak at these events, and there's a lot more opportunities, whether they're a big event or even a smaller event. You might end up there, and there's also like sort of casual opportunities. Maybe you're a breakout leader, in a Zoom breakout room. There's just a lot of opportunities for us to, as being digital citizens, to participate or speak. And all of that is opportunity for networking. So when I think about networking at events, and I always thought about this when I did live events, because I do a lot of speaking, but I also go to events. And I always thought of my networking in this fashion. I organized it, and it's the same for digital. So what can I do before the event to start my networking? What can I do during the event? And what can I do after? And who can I network with? Is it a speaker? Is it a host of the event? Is it part of the audience? Because sometimes you go to an event, you'll get a list of the audience members, or you'll see the sign up, or the sponsors. So if you think about the whole opportunity set of how you can network, so that might mean that before the event, you are connecting with the speaker. I've had a few people connect with me in advance, and I always love that because I'm sort of thinking about that person because they've connected with me. Or you could, if there is an audience list, you can start connecting with those people or following them on Twitter, whatever you prefer. Certainly during the event, you can do the same thing. You can be connecting. Again, if it's physical event or live event, you can post something online while the event's happening, that you're enjoying the event or whatever it might be. So there's just a lot of ways to sort of break this down and get opportunities for networking. Because what we're trying to do, friends, is have more friends, have more followers, and have more connections. And hopefully these are all valuable. So again, starting from the people that you know, or people that you've met, or people that you want to know, those are the valuable connections that you want to have. And so they kind of come in all these buckets. And for me, I always believe it's so important to not, we see people, and I see them on LinkedIn, it drives me crazy. You connect with them and they start pitching you. And that's not my idea of an effective way to build a virtual network. To me, it's about being personalized and being focused on the other people and being valuable yourself. So you can personalize your messages, your invitations, and even your content can have a thread of being personal. And that is what makes people drawn to you. So one of the ways I do that is first I typically research them on LinkedIn. And I learn maybe I've done a search and I've determined that I want to meet this person, or I'd like to get to know this person. So the number one thing is not to say, oh, John, here's my book or here's my training or whatever that is. No, but to show interest in John, in that person. And so by doing that, I can look them up on LinkedIn, Facebook, maybe they've got a big YouTube channel, maybe I watch a video that they've done. Whatever it is, I show interest in them, and it's so easy now. And then when I'm sending that invitation to connect, it's meaningful and it's about them, and they're going to be much more likely to be interested in me. One of the things also that during COVID especially, like I've always talked to my clients about this, is maintaining relationships, rekindling it. Like if it's someone from the past, you can connect with them and start building the relationship. I've always felt that was important. But during COVID, people took this to a new level. What I saw were people were reaching out to people they hadn't talked to in 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, someone they worked with, and just connected with them, sent them a nice message, asked a question, how are they doing? And from that, I can't tell you how many people rekindled new opportunities, built new friendships, all referral opportunities. So just it's like staying top of mind with people that probably already like you from before, and it's just keeping that top of mind and being interested in them. So being, really being online is the same as how you want to build a good network offline. So for me, the invitations, the friend requests, the messages, they're really about, the goal is building conversations. It's not to be spamming and saying, here's my product, here's my webinar, whatever it might be. So you're being friendly and helpful, and you're not pitching, but you're building conversations. And believe me, people will naturally be drawn to you and be interested in you because that's how you operate. And now there's some amazing ways you can communicate. I call this awesome virtual messaging. So you can send audio or video messages to people. This actually blows my mind. And, I think about this really from a LinkedIn perspective. So on LinkedIn, you can go to the mobile app, just download the mobile app. And if I'm one of my connections, maybe I had a great Zoom call with somebody, and maybe it was a prospect, and then I'm connected with them on LinkedIn. And after that Zoom call, I can leave them an audio or video message saying, thank you for your time. It was really wonderful to learn about your business, etc. Imagine the impact that you make compared to everyone else. I mean, first of all, people are notoriously bad at following up. So if you can follow up, even, following up with a message is great, or connection, it's fantastic. But you can go the extra mile and send an audio or video message. Now, there's other apps you can do this. I prefer LinkedIn, of course, but there's other ways and other apps you can use to be, sending these awesome virtual messages. Now, on LinkedIn and Facebook, there's a lot of other things I like to think about when we're engaging with people. My favorite on LinkedIn is when someone has a new job. I'm always going to congratulate that person. And often that new job leads to a sales opportunity or a career opportunity. Because if someone that has moved to a new company, they might, particularly if they've gotten a promotion or they've moved to a new company, well, that usually means that they're trying to bring some change in. And so that is someone you want to keep rekindling that relationship. There's always anniversaries and birthdays. For me, I prefer that on Facebook, but some people do pretty well on LinkedIn with anniversaries and birthdays too. And of course, content. Content is king. We hear that, right? So for you, you can think about, not only you can think about how do I engage with content, or do I want to be a creator of content? There's so many opportunities, and I'll give you a few. So one thing is, if your prospect is in the news, you'll see that as in your content in your home feed stream. There's also posts, and that come in your feed, or they can come from your company, or they can come in a group. There's articles, which are blog posts. There's video, lots of different kinds of video. There's native video, there's live video. You can also embed a third-party video. Now, since the last year, there's documents, so you can put a PDF or a PowerPoint in your feed, as well as in your profile. There's commenting, of course, I'll talk about commenting in a moment. There's polls, so you can get a sense if you've got a great question related to your industry. What a great way for engagement. And stories. Now, LinkedIn Stories has been introduced already in Australia and the Netherlands, and it will be coming to the US. So that is a super exciting opportunity. So think about the content as a major way to engage and to be visible and to stay top of mind, and for people to build relationships with the content. Now, my favorite way to engage with content is commenting. So if any of you know me, you'll know that I love to comment. To me, 80% of what I'm doing on content is commenting on other people's items, because for me, that means I'm building relationships with them, I'm enhancing visibility of me and for them, and I'm sharing thought leadership. So commenting is a favorite thing for me. And also, when it comes to content, I really believe that instead of just always announcing your wonderfulness, and you certainly can do that, but I prefer lifting others up. And you do that, and guess what? They'll lift you up. So if your friend got an award, made a speech, got a new job, wrote a book, you noticed a press release, whatever it is, like for me, it's if you see good news around your friend or your colleague, or maybe your old coworker or your current coworker or your client, post about it. Let the world know, because anytime there's good news, people love to have that publicized, and you can be the one to do that. So I'm going to ask a question for you all. We've just talked about engagement a little bit. What is your favorite virtual platform? And there's no right or wrong.
So that poll is open for everyone to start responding to, and I do see some responses coming in, but based on your prior feedback, I won't give the color commentary on where most of the responses are coming in. I'll wait till we see the final results.
Well, I kind of like to yeah, a little suspense and have people vote, and then that they're not sure what the others' votes are. So kind of like, yeah, you got my style on that.
All right, so I'm going to close it now because it looks like responses are kind of waning,
Sure.
and share those results.
Oh, woohoo! My favorite, LinkedIn. Okay. But you know what? These are good. I mean, a lot of folks, obviously, Facebook or Instagram is huge, huge, huge. And I think for a lot of you probably are using multiple platforms, right? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So thank you for that. That's good. It's good to know that we've got a lot of LinkedIn folks here. Okay. Thanks for that. All right. So one of the things I'm going to say about all this engagement is that I really think when you think about these platforms, and we've talked about some of them, what can you do to convert the people over? So if you're on a Zoom call, how can you turn some of those people that you want to know into a LinkedIn connection? Right? That's what you want to do. Or if you have LinkedIn connections, and that maybe some of them are really valuable, that you'd love to have a Zoom meeting, how can you turn that into a Zoom meetup? Right? Or all of these different things. If you're on Zoom with someone, turning it into phone, or a LinkedIn connection, start following them on Instagram. So all these are things that I want you to think about broadening, and not just being, I know many of you love LinkedIn like I do. So how can we take that and expand that? So some of those people, not everyone we're on LinkedIn with, do we want to be Facebook friends? Because often many of us think of Facebook as personal. You have to kind of decide for yourself. But for some of them, one of the things about turning it into conversation is content can help you have conversations. And then it's easy then, once you're having, like, maybe in the messaging, in the chat, in the comments, it makes sense to say to someone, this has been great talking about this, and you could message them and say, do you want to jump on a phone call, or do you want to jump on a Zoom? We can continue talking about this topic. Like, there's opportunities to do that, and vice versa. Because the idea is moving fluidly across the platforms. And I'm not trying to overwhelm you. If you only want to be on LinkedIn, or you only want Facebook, that's fine. But if you feel like your people are kind of across, you have that opportunity to do that if you wish. All right, now we're going to move into section 3, which is, so we've done appearance and we've done engagement. Now we're going to do find new people, which is always fun. So the LinkedIn ecosystem has over 700 million people and 30 million companies. So there's lots of opportunity there to find all kinds of people and opportunity. And you're really the center of the universe. Who you know are your first level connections, and who they know are second level. So if you've got 500 valuable first level connections, meaning valuable, like I was talking, that they're people that you've worked with and that you know and that you want to know, then with those 500 valuable connections, that means that you are likely have 200,000 second level connections. So those, conceivably, those first level connections can invite you to or introduce you to those second level connections. That's the power of the LinkedIn ecosystem. You can also do a search. These are just some of the filters. You can take that whole database, your database, and you can search by title. You can search by geography. You can do a search by all different things and create a list and see kind of how you're connected. Are you the first levels, the second levels, and what the pathways are to get introduced. You can join groups. And I think that if you have an offline, let's say you belong to an association, that's a perfect group. Look online. What do they have online? Or your college or your functional area, if you've got functional expertise. All these are places that you can look for groups. Now, most of the groups, we used to have a lot of groups in Google+, but most of the groups now are Facebook or LinkedIn. So Rutgers has Facebook groups, and you can look at those and see which one matches up to what you want to do. So take a look. There's a ton of them. And then also there's a Facebook page, and you should follow that page, and then you can engage with people on that page. You can see what's happening. Maybe there's people that you want to know that you want to connect with on LinkedIn or Facebook, or you want to follow them. Rutgers also has LinkedIn groups and a LinkedIn page. Now, one thing I want to say, most of you went to Rutgers, but if you didn't go to Rutgers, still you look at your colleges, look for what those opportunities are, because alumni connections are fantastic. And most people want to be very helpful and get to know other alumni. So what's interesting, you can find alumni from your school based on your criteria. So I did this little search and I used Rutgers, and there's over 272,000. And I did a targeted search on LinkedIn, and I said, I want to find people from the Philly and the New York area that are in public health and healthcare services. And I found 684 people. And in this search, by the way, I couldn't show the whole thing on the screen. If I scroll down from this search, I go way down, I can see those 684 people. How amazing. So I can do that. I can also say, where are the top employers? Maybe I'm a job seeker and I just graduated from Rutgers. I want to know, where do people work? And there's other ones underneath here. I mean, I was just showing part of the search. There's Morgan Stanley, et cetera. So I can see where these folks work. And if I click on Verizon, I can get the list of those 941 people. Wow. No matter what college you went to, you can do this type of search. So what a great way to find people that, again, should be part of your valuable network. You can find people on Zoom. You can find them in the breakouts. You can find them in chats. And sometimes when people are talking on the audio, you can write their name down and you connect with them. On the chats, what I like to do on Zoom is, oftentimes you're on a Zoom and it's really a fun Zoom. People will say, let's put our LinkedIn URL in the chat. So say you've got 50 people in the Zoom and they're all putting their URL. And then at the end, you save the chat. And it looks like this with a red arrow. There's a little 3 dots at the bottom of your chat. You save it. And then at the end of the meeting, you'll get a list and you'll see all their LinkedIn URLs, and you can connect with them after the meeting. Twitter chat. Now, Twitter chat is amazing. They have, basically, these are scheduled times where people are on Twitter talking about a topic, and it's all like thought leadership, and there's a hashtag around it. So just to give you an example, Experian, the company Experian, does something called Credit Chat Wednesdays at 3 p.m. So think about your industry. Is there a Twitter chat? Now, I have to tell you, funny, I have had, and I don't do a lot on Twitter, but I've gotten customers on Twitter who somehow I met them on Twitter and they connected with me on LinkedIn, and they ended up hiring me to do LinkedIn training. So it all started with Twitter. So again, all these things kind of can work together if you're moving fluidly across the platforms. And hashtags, you can use hashtags to find people talking about your topic. So the best hashtag usage is going to be on Twitter, Instagram, and on LinkedIn. All right. By now, you probably kind of know my perspective is that you want to be memorable and you want to be personal. You want to be unique. You want to customize your approach and be helpful and valuable. You want to be interested in other people and you don't want to be pitching. And this is how people will be drawn to you and attracted to you. One of the things I do after an event, this is an example, I did an event in Michigan. It was a LinkedIn for Leaders. And so after the event, I took photos and I posted it to thank the organization and thank the people. And I do this. In fact, I'll do one today after this to thank all of you. And so hopefully you'll connect with me. Maybe you'll want to jump in on my post. I call it a gratitude post. So when you think about all the things you do, when can you send a gratitude post? Because again, that gives visibility. Maybe you're thanking someone and they will be very appreciative. It builds your relationships. We all want to be a valuable resource to our own network, and that is how opportunity comes our way. I want to thank you for today, and we're going to go into questions, but I have a couple quick things. This is what we covered. We did appearance, engagement, and sort of searching to expand our network. My book is LinkedIn for Personal Branding, The Ultimate Guide, and I wrote it a few years ago. And right now it's at the publishers for the new book is coming out in a couple weeks. I'm really excited. I've added a lot of sections on content. I've updated it. And if you want to just stay in touch on what's happening with this, if you text the word book to 55444, I'll be able to send the information to you in a couple weeks. And I also do a newsletter, which is basically once a month I share with my network, these are the changes on LinkedIn. So if you're really interested in knowing, it's really very LinkedIn centric. If you like to know what's new on LinkedIn, then you'd want to be on this newsletter. All right. Also, I definitely invite you to follow me or connect with me. I love it when you send a note. If you go to my profile, it's Sandra Long, and look for me under New York probably if you don't see me right off the bat. And you'll see the follow button. You can follow. Or if you want to connect, I want you to click on the more, and then the drop down will say connect, and that's how you connect. So I'd be honored to connect with you and have you be part of my network, and we can go from there. And we're going to have some questions now. And Margaret, I wonder if there are questions out there.
There are definitely questions, Sandra. This was one of the more recent questions that came in, but I think it's very relevant. So I'm going to start with this one. Is it better to have a large number of first connections, even if you haven't met them in person? And I thought it was so relevant because we're talking about getting to know people that we can't go meet in person right now.
Okay, yeah. So I think it's okay. I mean, here's the thing I want to say. That person should watch my TEDx talk, because my TEDx talk is about LinkedIn community. And basically my belief is that you want to make your first level connections as valuable as possible. And so ideally you've met them, even if it's a phone call, a Zoom meeting, or you've had some email, that's ideal. If you have a LinkedIn network full of people that you have none of that, your network's not that valuable. It's just not. It's not going to be strategic. Those people aren't going to introduce you, right? They're less likely to engage with you. But if you've got a network of your old clients, your coworkers, your friends from the soccer field, your neighbors, like people that know you, then they're going to be much more likely to engage with your post, to introduce you to someone, to message you, to comment on things. So I say that question. I say with a caveat that if you can't meet them in person, maybe you can. The more that you have as valuable network, and a lot of that can be on the phone or Zoom. Hopefully
Great.
that helps. Yeah.
Yes. And then in addition, or I guess aside from LinkedIn, is it better to have social media accounts set to public or private?
Well, I think the idea of being on social media is mostly to be public. Now, what you can do if you're worried about privacy is I recommend for every single platform, go into the settings and look through the privacy settings, because you have a lot of options. So some people I know on Facebook, have their Facebook locked down so that only their friends can see, their posts and all of that. And so that's an option to, kind of hide a lot. You can do a lot of that on Facebook. Now, LinkedIn also has a lot of privacy settings. But for me, when I think about being on LinkedIn, to me, you want to have an amazing profile and you want people to see it because that's the whole point. I had a client a few years ago. I was doing something down in DC, and the woman, and it was a training room. It was like 30 people, and she kind of walked up to me while they were all working on the hands-on, and she said, "My husband's in the FBI, and I want to make this as private as possible, but I need to be here because I'm in the HR department." So there are settings. Like, so what we did is she could hide part of her last name. You could just use the first initial. You can not share your email. There's certain things you can go look in the settings, and they're always changing it. But that's the only person in the last 10 years that I've ever advised that, because I think you want to go into your settings and turn on for LinkedIn. You want to have your Google settings. You want people to find you on Google. And there's a setting for that. And if they can only find you on LinkedIn, that means that if someone Googles your name, they can't see your sections. So for me, LinkedIn should be open completely. And Facebook should be, unless you have an unusual circumstance. And Facebook, I think you can go through the settings and decide.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's great. Very good answer. Next is, and this is interesting too because it's very relevant to the fact that we're talking about virtual networking. This was how do you, and you can't see my air quotes, but bump into people the way that you used to at conferences?
I love that question. So you can bump into people, and I just love that. I love the way the person even asked the question. So one thing you can do is you be watching for their content. Like, that's a way, if you engage with someone's content. And what LinkedIn has made it really easy now, because about a year and a half ago they added something which was like an activity section to the profile. So if you go to someone's profile, and first of all, they'll see that you viewed their profile, which is a really good thing. That's a really nice thing. They'll be a compliment. They'll probably go look at your profile, but you can look at their content. And I'm not saying, put comments on 40 things. I had somebody do that to me. It kind of creeped me out. Like, they made comments on 40 of my posts. Like, they just went back, a month or something. So I wouldn't do that. But the last couple of posts, if there's something you can make an insightful comment, that person guarantee will notice you. That's like bumping into them. So, commenting on their post is my favorite. Looking at their profile is right up there. Really good.
Great.
Love the question.
Yeah, I like that too. Next question is upgrading to LinkedIn Premium worth it? And if so, why?
Okay, so that question I get all the time, and there's no way I could give an answer because I don't know the situation. It all depends on the person's goals and their situation. So I couldn't just say for everyone, yes, it's the right thing, or everyone, it's not the right thing. So let me give you an example. They have all different types of premium. There's premium for salespeople. There's a business version. There's premium for job seekers. And again, it just depends kind of where you are and what you need to do. And I've seen a lot of people that bought premium and they didn't have any idea why, or they bought it thinking, I'm buying it for this reason, and there's a lot of ways you can get that for free. So I think what it is understand why are you wanting to get premium, and then you can look and see that each of the premium solutions will list all the features. So make sure you're getting the features that you're upgrading for. Okay. So I guess there's a couple things that are generic across all premium. So one of them is 90 days of seeing who's viewed your profile. That is a feature, no matter what premium you get, that's there. Otherwise, all of them have different versions of premium. But for free, you can see the last 5 people who viewed your profile. But for all the premium, you can see the 90 days. Now, that's assuming you want to always have your profile open so people can see your profile and that you viewed them as well. So you have to really look and see what do I want, what are my goals, and then look at each one of those to see which is the right premium.
Perfect. And then what about Navigator?
Yeah, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, same thing. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is for salespeople, and it's a fabulous tool. I use it. And what I would say is you want to make sure you get your foundations of LinkedIn first. You want to make sure you have a great profile that is attractive to your buyer. You want to have a strategic network, and then LinkedIn Sales Navigator is fantastic after that. So what happens is there you can you can basically target people that you're interested in meeting, and or prospects that you have on your prospect list, and you're not even connected, and you can then see what they're doing, their content. You can engage. It's got a lot of other alerts and features. So yeah, Sales Navigator is great. Make sure you get your foundations set, and then you can use Sales Navigator really effectively.
Okay, perfect. And so a little bit of a pivot to how do you handle a layoff or a job loss on LinkedIn and your other social media?
Okay, so first of all, a lot of people are facing this situation right now. So I think it's one of those things that people were always sensitive about, like, what do I say? You know, first of all, you're probably going to be updating your profile. And there's the other thing is there's some alerts that you can put in that are fairly new that you can say you're open to work. So you can indicate you're open to work, and it will either be for everyone on LinkedIn or it can be for just recruiters. So there's a setting you can go. And what that means is that people can then see that you're interested in a new position. Then you've got to make decisions, though, about your profile. And again, it depends on the person's situation of how they want to position that. But typically, they're going to have to think about what are they going to do with their experience section, how are they going to change their about, which is their essay, how are they going to change their headline, and that would be depending on your situation. So I'd have to know more about the person to really give advice. But those are the areas that you'd be thinking about what changes you're going to be making.
Fantastic. And another question here is, should you have recommendations that are associated with each of the positions that you've held?
Okay, so in the old days of LinkedIn, that was really important. And it's less important now because they changed the recommendations a couple of years ago. So now they used to be the recommendations were under each experience. So if you had 3 experiences, you would see the experience, you really wanted to have the recommendations under each experience. That's no longer the way they show it. So it's less important. I think what's more important is thinking about having current ones, and and thinking about that they're really relevant recommendations. The other thing I would say is make sure you're giving recommendations. If you're just getting them and you're not giving them, especially if you're in a leadership role, it doesn't reflect well on you. You want to be getting them and you want to be giving them.
There's a question that came in as a follow-up to a question that you just recently answered, and it is that LinkedIn open to network photo frame viewed as professional?
So I think they're talking about the open to work feature. So it does give you like this green circle. It's really personal preference. Now, I've heard different people say different things. Like some people will say it's really clear, and now, especially now with COVID, a lot of people are looking for a job, and the stigma is gone because it's impacted so many people. So it is very clear that you're looking for a position. I've had other people say it's too much, it's too desperate. So I look at it like it's really your personal preference of what you want, how you want to come across. I think
Gotcha.
that is what they were asking.
Yes, yeah, very, very much so. I'm in alignment with you there. Um, so there's a question here about content creation and sourcing material for it. And I know you did talk a little bit about that, but would you um, review that? Because the way the question came across, the person is saying that they're looking for material that's copyright free, and I don't think that that's quite what you meant at the time. So maybe a little clarity around
Yeah, yeah.
content.
Okay, so I have just as a funny, I have 5 maybe 6 chapters in my book on content. There's a lot to talk about with content. So I think what I'm hearing the person say is they're worried, and I've occasionally I hear this question that people are worried about copyright, meaning they're worried about sharing someone else's article or something. But the fact of the matter is, if it's a published article, like if you go to Forbes or Entrepreneur or Inc. or any place like that, and you decide you want to share it, there's sharing buttons right on those articles online. And those platforms, you don't have to worry about copyright. They want you to share. They want you to do that. And for me, though, most of the best content is actually native that you write yourself. So there's no worry about that as well. So you'd be writing a text post, you'd be writing an article that's generated from you. But then occasionally you'd be sharing something, and again, usually there's sharing buttons, and most of these, these online publications, they are looking and seeking people that will share. So, and then you want to add your insightful comment. You don't want to just share it with nothing. You want to put your spin on it, put your insight, and then share it.
Yes, I agree with you. When I talk to people about that, I refer to that as telling the why, like explaining why you're sharing it, why you've
Yeah,
taken the time to, move from one platform and copy and paste and hit, post and whatever. So yes.
yeah,
Um,
yes.
so there is a question about bots, and I'm not too familiar with this, so I'm going to read it verbatim. Do you recommend any LinkedIn bots to help you add connections quicker and more efficiently?
No, no, I don't recommend any automation. Well, let me just say this. Uh, LinkedIn does not allow automation of like adding connections, profile views, sending messages, and a lot of people unfortunately sign up for that. I've had people that have had their accounts closed down because they signed up for automation. The only automation that you're permitted to do is the kind of automation where you're posting. So, for example, like you can get Hootsuite or something like that. Like they have platforms where they will, you can schedule your posts. But the other type of automation, you want to stay away from it. And there's a lot of companies out there that are offering it, and there's people that are using it. But the two reasons are, one, it's not allowed. But the other reason is you can tell a mile away that that's not personal. You just heard me talk about being personal and being valuable. And I can tell a mile away when I get an automated message or connection request, and I'm very turned off.
Yes, I agree with you, but I'm kind of relieved because of the way that I led up to that question. I really didn't know what that meant, so I'm glad I'm very unfamiliar with what a LinkedIn
Well,
bot is.
I hope that's what the person's talking about. When they say bot, I'm thinking of automation. So
Yes, yeah, yeah.
just be
Your explanation made a lot of sense. So, um, okay, so this person, and I'm sure this was generated by our discussion about that copyright free, but they say, is an article that I post on LinkedIn mine? Um, to post and publish somewhere else, they indicate that they read that LinkedIn holds the rights to any content posted on their site.
okay. That what I would do, first of all, two things I would do if I'm going to do an article. Articles are great for for, again, it's a blog article. It should not be a short post, but it's a blog. It's a full blog article. The first thing I would do is I would put it on my website first, and for a couple of reasons. And I'd put the copyright, if you're concerned about that, put that on there. But it always assumes when you've got the first one out there that the copyright is assumed to be yours. And I'm not an attorney. I don't want to be like a copyright attorney. But I like the idea of putting it on your website first. And then the other thing about that is, from a Google perspective, you can take that same article and you can put it on LinkedIn. I usually, want to wait some time so that the Google will index it. And some people will say you want to change some of it, maybe change 40% of it. Those are just different options you can look at. But you should be, from what I understand, you should be fine. And if you're at all worried about it, I would just put copyright. And I think I've heard about, this is not something that gets talked about a lot, this concern. But I remember that, and I'd have to kind of go back and look it up again to see kind of what the latest thinking is. But the last time that I remember thinking about this, which was ages ago, was that the user owns the content. So again, I haven't looked it up or thought about it in a couple of years. So that's pretty much all I can think of right now.
Okay, I'm going to close on this really strong question
Okay.
about company pages. Should I have a company page for LinkedIn or Facebook?
Okay. Well, it depends. If you have a company, then you might want to do that. So what I would say is some of you might, if you're just one person, like I'm one person, I have company pages pretty much on all the platforms because I wanted to have my company name known. And on LinkedIn, I wanted to have the logo there. And I also, produce content and I get followers on my company page. So it really depends. But one thing I want to caution you on company pages, like I like company pages a lot. And there's a whole program and there's a lot about company pages. However, when it comes, if you're a solo or you're a job seeker, whatever, or you're an author speaker, and yes, you could have a company page, but most of your action, like 95% of your real action of building your virtual network or getting prospects is going to be through you as a person. So your LinkedIn profile or your Facebook personal page or your Instagram, whatever it is, that you as a person are going to get, because people engage with people, people buy from people. So yes, have a company page, but understand that you as a person is the most important driving factor for your success.
That's awesome. Sandra, I want to thank you so much. And there were actually a few little thank you notes that came in individually in the
Oh,
Q&A
good.
box to you as well, because it was a fantastic presentation. Love the interactivity, and thank you for adding, by the way, at the beginning of your bio. What I neglected to mention is that you are a very popular instructor in some of our executive education programs, and people can find out more about those programs on the executive education part of the business school website. We had a very enthusiastic audience with lots of questions and input, so I want to thank them as well. And would you mind, Sandra, just putting up quickly that 1,000 laptop challenge? I want to make sure our audience knows about that.
Sure. And let me just say thank you to everyone. I'm looking forward to hopefully connecting with many of you.
Yes, yes. I love that these programs turn into such great vehicles for connection. So, but I do want to mention to everyone that it is generous corporate sponsors, promotional partners, and individual contributors who are coming together to help our students by raising awareness and funds for the 1,000 Laptop Challenge. Our semester has begun with remote instruction, and can you imagine attending your classes and doing all of your schoolwork online, but without a computer? This is a real struggle for some of our students. How can you help, you ask? Please consider making a donation to the 1,000 Laptop Challenge Fund. Also, please check with your employer. Your company may have a charitable arm or they may match your gift. Kindly watch for the email that will follow this webinar so that you'll have a direct link to the donation page for the 1,000 Laptop Challenge Fund. We thank all of you in advance for being a part of that important RBS initiative. Also in the email that you get will be a survey and our exciting schedule of topics and presenters that were lined up over the next several months were thanks to the great suggestions from our audience. So we encourage you to keep sharing your thoughts with us. We want the series to continue to meet your needs. So if you stay online quickly, that brief survey will come up, but it'll also be emailed to you as well. Our virtual Lunch and Learn series takes place usually on Wednesdays at noon Eastern, and we hope it's easy for you to remember because we put it in the middle of the week and the middle of the day. For more information, you can always visit our webpage, business.rutgers.edu/alumni/lifelong-learning. We know that's long, so we do follow up and get information to you via email. When our webinar began, I mentioned that a link to the archived recording of the presentation will be shared via social media and emailed to you. It will also be on the Business Insights page of our website. And with that, thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Stay connected and safe and healthy.